Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. So here's another deck profile for you guys today. This time it's on Traptrix. So last time I did this I was using cards only within the Traptrix structure deck. And let's just say Traptrix got a lot of new support that actually helped this deck quite a lot. In fact, this deck is easily a top tier strategy right now. It's performing really well. It's got a good matchup against Kashtira, got a good matchup against Branded. Against Labyrinth, it's pretty good too. So yeah, you'd be surprised. I didn't think Traptrix was gonna be this impactful at all. So I'm so happy that, with all the new support cards, this deck can actually compete a lot better than what it used to. But anyway, figured I'd share with you guys what I got this time around and just kind of show you guys my own take of the Traptrix strategy. So yeah, let's go and get started. So now this is also a new competitive build. I mean, to be fair, with the structure deck cards, you could actually build a competitive deck anyway. In fact, if you just want to stick to a budget, you could literally just do what I did last time. But anyway, starting off with the main deck, it's 40 cards. Playing 3 copies of Traptrix Mormelio. Definitely one of your best normal summons. When this card is normal summon, you can add a whole normal trap card from your deck to your hand. And when it's special summon, it has a mandatory effect where you have to target a spell or trap your opponent controls and destroy that target. Next, 3 copies of Traptrix Mantis. Kind of your secondary starter, especially, and this works really well with the field spell because the field spell grants you an additional normal summon, which we'll get to more in detail later. But when this card is normal summon, you can add a Traptrix monster from your deck to your hand, and it's unaffected by the effects of whole normal traps, which, by the way, is the gimmick of all the main deck Traptrix monsters. But once per turn, quick effect, you can target 1 set spell or trap you control, return that target to the hand. Then you can set 1 spell or trap from your hand. So why this is important is because, let's say your opponent has a card like Cosmic Cyclone, and they target one of your face downs. You can chain your Traptrix Mantis, bounce it back to your hand, and then reset it again anyway. So that way, it dodges cards like that. But moving on. Next, 3 copies of Traptrix Pudica. So this is one of the new cards. When this card is normal summon, you could add the field spell, and also has a special summoning effect. When this card is special summon, you can target 1 monster your opponent controls, banish it, and then during the next standby phase, your opponent can special summon back one of their banished monsters. Now, even though that itself might not sound too good, if you already have a board that's well set up with all your trap cards, it doesn't even matter anyway, because you could basically just snipe them the second they summon their monsters back. It's not like Farfar where they come back at the end phase. It doesn't specify it's a special summon, is what I mean. But with Pudica, since it is counting as a special summon, yeah, it's you basically get to banish them again anyway, so that way your opponent doesn't get back their resources. But anyway, I figured this card was actually really good, a lot better than I thought it was. So yeah. Moving on, 3 copies of Traptrix Arachnid Campa. This is basically a searchable version of Lord of the Heavenly Prison. If you control a Traptrix monster, you can special summon this card from your hand, but it does lock you into insect and plant monsters from your extra deck for the rest of the turn, which is no problem because that's kind of what we play anyway. But while this card is face up, the first time your spell and trap cards would be destroyed, they are not destroyed. So yeah, pretty good, and this recycles each turn. Next, 2 copies of Traptrix Dionea. When this card is normal summon, you can target 1 Traptrix monster in your graveyard, special summon that target in defense mode. When this card is special summon, you can target 1 whole normal trap in your graveyard, set that target, but banish it during the end phase of your next turn if it is still on the field. So that's really good because it just recycles back your resources, and it's also a built-in Monster Reborn, so yeah. I know some people don't like to play this one, but I like it because it's just really good for the late game. But I like to play 1 copy of Traptrix Vesiculo. You can only use one of the following effects of Traptrix Vesiculo per turn, and only once that turn. You can send 1 set spell and trap you control to the grave, especially on this card from your hand, so really good as an extender. And if this card is in your graveyard, or if you control no cards in your spell and trap card zone, you can banish this card from your graveyard, target 1 whole normal trap in your graveyard, set it back to your field. So again, just good to get back some resources. And that pretty much does round up our Traptrix monsters, so let me go and get these out of the way. You've probably seen this in a lot of builds, but I do play 3 copies of Parallel Exceed. The fact that, once we go into Traptrix Sarah, this literally is a free rank 4. So, you can go into Rafflesia right away just so you can protect yourself from Nibiru and all that good stuff. For hand trips, running 3 copies of Ash Blossom. I am running Imperm, but we'll get to that later. But yeah, for sure, Ash Blossom is just really solid for this format, so I definitely like it. I'm so glad it got reprinted as structure deck as a common. For spells, I'm only playing 4 different spells. First off, playing 3 copies of Pot of Prosperity. Now, if you don't have access to this card, you can, however, play this as a budget alternative, which is 3 copies of Tantalizing Tune. Basically, you discard a level 4 insect or plant monster or a normal trap, draw 2 cards. But again, like, because I'm playing a more competitive build, I'm playing Prosperity. But again, Tantalizing Tune is still pretty good. It's still just as competitive, if anything. And it's just, again, really good the fact that, it's a spell that you can just, like, that's just really good for the archetype. But moving on, 1 copy of Traptrix Garden. Only need this at 1. If you want to run a second, you can, but I think 1 is more than enough. It's just basically double summon for your Traptrix monsters. So yeah, and the fact that you do need that additional normal summon is why it's so important for this deck. But yeah, that pretty much rounds up our spells. For traps, got quite a good number of them. Starting off with 3 copies of Imperm. Imperm is like one of the best disruptors right now. 3 Torrential Tribute. This is funny because the Exceeds monsters are actually immune to trap effects. So like if you have like pretty much all of them on your field and your opponent summons monsters, you can just play this and you don't even have to worry about blowing out your own cards so long as they have materials. So yeah, Torrential Tribute is just so broken with Traptrix. So yeah, definitely a really great blowout card for this deck. Next, 3 copies of Traptrix Holotail. Probably one of the best cards in the entire deck, honestly. It's a trap monster. You can activate this at the turn of a set so long as you discard a normal trap card from your hand. And then, of course, it's a level 4 monster when it's summoned, so yeah, definitely great for Xyz plays. Playing 2 copies of Floodgate Trap Hole. I was thinking about 3, but I found 2 was actually the perfect number, so yeah. Really strong against Cashier, because like as soon as they special summon one of their big guys, you just Floodgate Trap Hole them, and boom, they can't bring him back and can't go into some Xyz plays. I also got 2 copies of Trap Hole of Nightmare. So yeah, definitely a great card just to negate the effects of a special summon monster. Terrifying Trap Hole Nightmare, similar cause. If your opponent has a special summon a monster with 2,000 or more attack, you can target one of those monsters. And if you have a whole normal trap in your graveyard, you can banish 1 monster from your opponent's graveyard as well. But of course, the monster you target has to be destroyed. So yeah, Terrifying Trap Hole Nightmare, definitely a great one. And finally, 1 Gravedigger's Trap Hole. You mostly just send this off of Reflegios effect. That way, if like your opponent tries to Nibiru you, you just like, yeah, send it to the graveyard, copy the effects, and then just banish Nibiru off their hands. Alright, so that rounds up the main deck. For the extra deck, pretty self-explanatory. Playing 3 copies of Traptrix Serra, probably your most important link monster of the deck. And pretty much what you're going to need to trigger off a Parallel Exceed anyway. But yeah, if a normal trap card is activated, you can special summon a Traptrix monster from your deck with a different name than the ones you control. And if another Traptrix monster's effect is activated, you can set 1 whole normal trap directly from your deck. So yeah, Traptrix Serra is pretty broken. 1 copy of Traptrix Kularia. Once per turn, after you activate a normal trap card, you can reset it instead of sending it to the graveyard. During your end phase, you can target 1 Traptrix monster in your graveyard, special summon it in defense mode. So a great way just to bring back your monsters, and also the fact it kind of has like a pseudo Subterra Final Battle based effect. So yeah, Kularia is pretty good. I am running 1 Alsa. Alsa is actually pretty strong against the mirror match, not gonna lie. So yeah, definitely a great card to run. And the fact that your whole deck is actually Earth monsters, with the exception of Exceed, yeah, Alsa is just such a house in this deck. And of course, 1 Traptrix Oedipus. We all know what this does now. This card is link summons unaffected by trap effects. All Traptrix monsters you control gain 1,000 attack points. While you have normal trap cards in your grave, once per turn you can target 1 face-up, or you can target face-up cards equal to the number of insect or plant monsters you control. Negate the effects, and then until the end of the turn, you can banish 1 normal trap from your graveyard, and if you do, destroy 1 of those targeted face-up cards. So yeah, definitely a pretty cool effect. Now it is a link 3, so it does require a little bit of commitment, but for this deck, it's not too hard. Now moving on to the big guns here. 2 Traptrix Penguicula. So that's actually that's kind of close to how you're supposed to pronounce it. So yeah, again, these they all have the effects where they're unaffected by trap effects. And it's also, and this card is actually unaffected by the activated effects of other monsters with the same type as this card's materials. And well, that's actually pretty good because again, it's Kashtira. You can take some of their monsters and they just become, this one just becomes immune to their banishing effects. But anyway, you can only use each of the following effects of Traptrix Penguicula once per turn. You can detach 1 material from this card, add 1 Traptrix monster from your deck to your hand, and if a monster owned by your opponent is sent to the graveyard or banished, by a card effect, except during the damage step, you can attach one of those monsters to this card as material. So this is actually pretty good against, especially if you use Pudika's effect, where you get to like banish one of their monsters. You could basically just take it with this card's effect, and boom, you got a free material just like that. Next, 2 copies of Traptrix for Flesia. I figured 2 was fine just because, you know, it is good for the fact that you get to copy your whole normal Traps effects. And yeah, you know, just for added fodder for your Pot of Prosperity. I'm only playing 1 copy of Traptrix Almaris. It is really good for the grind game, but I think 1 was just perfectly fine, honestly. But yeah, just 1. And if you notice, this is actually the Lost Art variant. I am running 1 copy of Time Thief Redoer. Redoer is actually pretty good too, so really like what it does. 1 Baguska, 1 Abyss Dweller, and of course 1 copy of Zeus. I know some builds like to run this at 2, but I think 1 is perfectly fine, honestly. And that pretty much runs out the extra deck. For the side deck, I decided to go with 3 copies of Artifact Lancia. One of this deck's biggest weaknesses is actually banishment, funny enough. Despite that, you know, you have ways to kind of protect yourself with it. But cards like Cosmic Cyclone and Evenly Matched, yeah, you got to be prepared for that. Especially against the mirror matches. Mirror matches do have evenly matches as well. So like, if you can shotgun your opponent, whether they're side, if you have a hunch they're siding an evenly match, or if you're up against the Kashtira matchup in general, yeah, like Artifact Lancia just comes in clutch. Contact C is pretty good. This actually really hurts branded, especially if they're not on Spring the Iron Dash Dragon. So yeah, Contact C is pretty good. Also pretty good against Kashtira if you hit them at the right time. So just bear that in mind. 3 Book of Eclipse. I decided for 2 copies of Darkhole, and it's only if I get hit with an Ibly lock. So like, because I was thinking of running Bystials at first, but considering I am on Earth Monsters, you know, it's gonna be kind of hard to play it unless I'm up against the right matchup. So I went with Darkhole instead. 1 Harpy's Feather Duster. And of course, 3 copies of Evenly Matched. I know some people like to main deck it, but personally I like to side it out just because, like, you never know what your matchup is going to be. So sometimes Evenly can be a little dead if your opponent has a way to stop it. But anyway, well, that's all I got for you guys today. Hope you guys enjoyed this, and I'll catch you guys again next time.